स्कूल के
कर ली सर।
So good morning to all. Hello.
Good morning, sir.
गुड मॉर्निंग. काय चालू आहे?
बस काही नाही.
तर 2 मिनिट आपण पार्टिसिपंट जॉईन होऊ देऊ थोडेसे.
बरं सर.
हा गणेश सर. गणेश
हा बोला सर.
ते कोहोस्ट संदीप पवारांना बनवलेलं आहे ना तुम्ही, तर ते काढून आरसीए मॅडमला बनवून टाक. नाही संदीप पवारचं काढून टाक पोस्ट. ओके चल. So welcome all dear participants. Today is our 4th day for this PhD coursework. Today we have with us Dr. Pradeep Satav sir, Assistant Professor in Microbiology, NES Science College, Nanded. And he is a well-known teacher among the students. And you might be, you just after my introduction, you listen him very carefully, because he has given you an idea about his experience and certain about the how the research has been carried out and all these things. So on behalf of Research Committee, Science College, Nanded, and on behalf of all the participants, I welcome Dr. Pradeep Satav sir for this first lecture of 4th day. So welcome sir, Satav sir.
Thank you, sir.
Now I request Satav sir to proceed further. Please start.
Thank you, sir, for such nice introduction. So today we are going to discuss about the research proposal and its element. So first, I would like to ask some questions regarding. So what is research proposal and what is the requirement for research proposal? Am I audible to all? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So please try to make this session interactive. So what is the purpose of research proposal? So why we write research proposal? Please try to answer either in chat box or you can directly answer.
All the participants are requested to take part in the live session. It's a live session, huh? And
Yes.
this topic is very much important because you have to write your synopsis and certain reports in during your coursework.
Yes, so why we write our research proposal? So as I have also gone through this process, so I was not also aware about all those things when I have registered for a PhD. Okay, so just like other people, I followed my colleague as well as other research fellows. So they have given me a synopsis. That synopsis has some components. So I tried to fit my idea about my research topic into that particular document. So that was provided to me by my fellow friends as well as colleagues. So if we are clear about all those topics, then it is very easy to write our research proposal. Means it can save our time, because most of the people are stuck in this process. Okay, so sometimes they spend around 10 years, some people spend around 12 years. However, some people complete their research work within a very short period of time. That is only within 3 to 4 years. So why these differences? ऐसे differences क्यों होते हैं? Means some are completing within very short period of time and some are taking too much time, because most of the people are not clear about their research work. Means what is research? So it is not clear to most of the people, or some other tasks are also running in background. So they have some other responsibilities. But most of the time, like me, so I have also spent around 6 to 7 years. So, however, that research problem should be solved within 3 to 4 years only. So, I have given a very large amount of time to solve research problems. So, I have registered for around 3 to 4 topics in different universities. Registered means I have not actually registered. So, I have submitted my research proposals to 3 different universities. So first, I have submitted my proposal to Pune University. Then same proposal was sent to CSIR. Then I come back here in Nanded, join my job, then submit my research proposal to 2 different guides. Okay, so 2 different proposals to 2 different guides in Amravati University. So I have also tried to prepare some different topics in SRTM University, Nanded. So what that resulted, so I have lost most of my valuable time. So that I should have spent in laboratory. So most of the time I have spent was writing my research proposal, then redefining the problems, because I was not clear about all those topics. If you are clear about everything, so what is research, why research is carried out, then it will save our time. So that's why I'm trying to focus on those aspects of research, that is research proposal writing. And how to write research proposal? So what is its purpose? So main purpose of writing research proposal. So here we have one research paper on our screen. So I think this screen is visible to everyone. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So first step during writing our research proposal is we should know our research problem. So how to find research problem? So it is generally related with our guide. Okay, most of the people follow some research guide. So they give their research area or information about their research area. Then student try to explore same research area, that is the recent advancements in same topic. So they collect some research paper. So sometimes these research papers are from open access journals. So not all open access articles are bad. So there are some research journals. So sometimes they are called as predatory journals also. So here the research work, please hold some time. I have some noise in my background. Please some time. So please hold some time. So sorry about the interruption. So there was a noise in my background. Okay. So we are going to understand how to write research proposal by going through this research paper. So any research proposal start with some idea. Means idea means what is a research problem? What are the different kinds of problems in society? Okay. So we as a researcher try to solve those problems. So we work on those problems. So problem may be either scientific or a social problem. Okay. So it depends on fellow researcher or kind of research we are conducting. Okay, so that researcher will decide on which topic he will try to work, or which kind of problem he try to solve. Okay, so there are a lot of innovative problems also. Means, for example, in last 2 to 3 years, we have faced a problem that is a coronavirus. Okay, so we people didn't aware about so how to tackle with this virus. So that's why we went through a complete shutting down all activities, all our activities. So that's why research problems are very important. So हमें पता नहीं होता है कि किस रिसर्च टॉपिक को किस टाइम पे मतलब इम्पोर्टेंस आ जाएगा. So we try to solve our very minor research problem, but sometimes they are very valuable in such situations. ऐसे बहुत सी situations हिस्ट्री में आ चुकी है, जैसे कि मलेरिया की सिचुएशन है या फिर और कोई HIV की सिचुएशन है कि जहाँ पे हमें कोई सॉल्यूशन नहीं रहता है, तो इसलिए हम we try to go for preventive activities. So that's why this is the importance of research problem. Okay, finding or identifying the research problem. So here, we try to fit our research problem in one single title. Okay, so here they have presented a title that is evaluating the role of wastewater as a reservoir of antibiotic resistance. Okay, so some title is given here. So they try to give some idea about their research problem. So as a microbiologist, I have extracted some keywords from this topic, that is antibiotic resistance. So this is very important keyword for me as a microbiologist. Then I will try to solve. So that is, I am trying to find some solution to some problem. Means here antibiotic resistance, reservoir of antibiotic resistance, means I am trying to find a new reservoir for antibiotic resistance, whether it is new or the work has been conducted by some researcher in other part of world. Okay, so what are the different types of method I am trying to use here is also mentioned here. Okay, so using phenotypic and molecular method. So this is my title. So I try to fit my research problem in my title. So this is the first important component. Okay. So titles are of different types, either simple titles or flowing titles, or it may contain two different components. Okay. Then we have some introduction regarding our research problems. So in introduction, we mainly focus on research problem. Okay. So here in first paragraph, the researchers have tried to explain the research problem. Okay. For example, so here, sorry. So here researchers have tried to explain the problem. Okay. So antibiotic resistance. So most of the time, so this sentence is always there for relevant research topics. Okay. So antibiotic resistance has taken the form of global pandemic in recent years and require continuous and concerted efforts to mitigate its risk. So although we are aware about such type of situations, but generally, so it is considered that the reading audience is reading such information for the first time. So most of the articles start with such scenario. Okay, so they try to explain their problems. So in first paragraph, we generally focus on trying to explain our research problem. Okay, so they have started with some very raw idea and they started to specialize their topic. Okay, so then specific information is given step by step. So what is antibiotic resistance, why it is important, how it is transferred. Okay, all those things are included here. So then they reviewed some different types of studies. Okay, means next is means when we present our research proposal or research paper. So next thing is to show so what is going in this world about relevant research topic. मतलब इस रिसर्च के बारे में दुनिया में क्या काम चल रहा है. So what people are doing. So related to our research work. So that is very important. That is review of research articles. Means we generally go through some research papers. It is hundreds of research papers, abstracts, different titles. Then we try to match our title with those titles, as well as we focus on the reviewing process. So here they focus on what is the same topic is explored by other researchers and how they have done the same work in different laboratories. So this is the purpose of review. Okay, so we just focusing on the work done by other researchers in this world. So now at last we come at actual research problem. Okay, so what is our research problem, or what is the site of research work? So here in Pakistan and other developing countries, hospital wastewater is discharged into drainage system and subsequently to lake and river without any treatment. Okay. So now they are coming to main component, that is problem component of this research proposal. Then next we try to explain the objective. What is the importance of objective? So why objectives are important? So what happens when we go for some journey? If we don't have any roadmap, then we try to explore very different things. Okay. So suppose I want to go anywhere. Okay, I don't have any objective. Means मुझे कहीं पे भी जाना है, समझो जाना है. तो जाना है मतलब क्या, यहाँ से घर से निकलूंगा मैं. सो एक आधी चाय की टपरी मुझे दिख गई तो वहां पे मैं रुक जाऊंगा, चाय पीऊंगा. ओके, चाय पीने के बाद मुझे याद आएगा, अरे यार मुझे अभी भूख लगी है, थोड़ी देर बाद. ओके, मैं खाना खाऊंगा. खाना खाने के बाद देन ओ आई हैव सम अदर पर्सनल वर्क. मुझे किसी तो भी बर्थडे को मीट करना है, मिलना है. ओके, सो मैं उससे मिलने चला जाऊंगा. उसके बाद अरे यार मुझे नींद आ रही है, मैं थक गया हूँ, मैं वापस आ जाऊंगा, सो जाऊंगा. बिकॉज अब मेरे पास कोई पर्सनल ऑब्जेक्टिव नहीं था, कोई मेरा रोड मैप नहीं था, कोई मेरा एम नहीं था. आई विल गो nowhere. Okay, but I can write these steps. Okay, I went to tea stall. I went to another center. Okay, so I meet my friend. I watch movie. Okay, then I try to explain. Okay, these were the objectives of my research work. Okay, ऐसे हम बोल सकते हैं कि मेरी जर्नी के वो objectives हैं. But this is not the true. We should start with specific objective, specific aim. So first, we should find a specific research problem. So what is the problem in society? Then we should have a novel as well as innovative approach. Okay, so हम वहाँ पे approach पे काम करेंगे कि किस approach से हमें वो problem solve करनी है. So here objectives as well as aims works. Means हम भटकेंगे नहीं. मुझे मुंबई जाना है. अगर ऐसा मैं कहूँगा, so that मतलब ये मेरा क्या हो गया, अभी ऑब्जेक्टिव हो गया, एम हो गया मेरा कि मुझे मुंबई जाना है. ठीक है. सो हाउ, देन हाउ पार्ट कम्स, मैं क्या करूंगा, फिर एक्सप्लोर करूंगा. तो कैसे जाना है मुझे, सो वाया ट्रेन, वाया फ्लाइट. ओके, सो ऑल दोस कंपोनेंट्स विल कम हियर. अगर मेरा कोई टारगेट नहीं है, मेरा कोई एम या ऑब्जेक्टिव नहीं है, तो देन आई विल नॉट गो एनीवेयर. आई विल गो समवेयर that is not specific, and when you go somewhere that consumes your time. Okay, so that's why most of the researcher, okay, कुछ लोगों को actually problem solve करने में बहुत साल लगते होंगे, लेकिन मैक्सिमम नंबर ऑफ रिसर्चर जो होते हैं, जैसे कि मेरे तरह फॉर एग्जांपल, कि उनका टाइम जो होता है, बहुत सा टाइम जो है, so that is wasted here and there, because I was also not aware about those things. I was just going through various number of research papers. Even I have wrote around 5 to 6 research proposals for different guides. Okay, बट उस वजह से क्या हो गया, थोड़ा सा मेरा मतलब वो पार्ट थोड़ा ठीक ठाक हो गया। मैं समझने लगा उसके बाद कि नहीं, रिसर्च प्रॉब्लम कैसे होता है। देन आई हैव रोट द रिसर्च प्रपोजल्स फॉर CSIR, देन UGC एंड SRTF, एंड सैंक्शन रेट वाज 100%। तो सारे के सारे रिसर्च प्रपोजल जो है वो फिर बाद में सैंक्शन हो गए। ओके, सो इन वेरी अर्ली एज ऑफ माय करियर, ओके, जो अर्ली एजेस थे, जो अर्ली इयर्स थे, उसमें ही मेरा रिसर्च प्रपोजल सैंक्शन हो गए। तो इसलिए इस कंपोनेंट पे हमें ज्यादा फोकस देना होता है। देन नेक्स्ट पार्ट जो आता है, अभी आता है कि हमें कौन सी मेथड्स चूज करनी है। ठीक है, सो मोस्ट ऑफ द साइंटिफिक जो रिसर्च प्रपोजल्स होते हैं उसमें साइंटिफिक मेथड्स की हमें जरूरत होती है। एंड मोस्ट ऑफ द रिसर्च वर्क रिक्वायर सैंपल्स। ओके, सो विच काइंड ऑफ सैंपल्स यू जनरली प्रेफर? अगर मैं बॉटनी का हूँ तो मैं प्लांट सैंपल्स के थ्रू जाऊंगा। ओके, प्लांट सैंपल्स। If I am a biochemist, microbiologist, zoologist, then I will go through tissues of animals or other some sewage samples or some other sort of samples. So that could be act as a source. Okay, मुझे अगर कोई research problem solve करना है, so then I require some samples in science. Okay, so from that sample, not compulsory, some research. Okay, सो नॉट कंपल्सरी, ये कंपल्सरी नहीं होता है। फिजिक्स वाले जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल थ्योरेटिकल रिसर्च अगर उनका है, मैथमेटिक्स वाले है तो उनका भी थ्योरेटिकल रिसर्च है। सो दे विल स्टार्ट विद डिफरेंट अप्रोच। सो हियर एज ए बायोलॉजिस्ट आई विल स्टार्ट विद सम सैंपल, सो सम सॉर्ट ऑफ सैंपल, सो आई विल कलेक्ट द सैंपल, so that could be act as a source for my further analysis. Then different methods, there's for example identification or characterization of plant, or for example here microorganism. The next approach, whether the problem is present in particular area or not. So for this I will also select some different methods, so such as here antibiotic susceptibility testing. So number of papers are there, so even thousands of papers are there, they are using similar approaches. Okay, sample collection, isolation, characterization, and antibiotic susceptibility testing. But they are just trying to solve the different approaches. Okay, so they are using simply different approaches or different sampling sites in a novel way. So then next is molecular detection. For example, so here we can insert some molecular approach in our work in metagenomic analysis and statistical analysis. With all those things comes under one title, that is material and methods. Okay, so this is the methodology part of our research. So whatever methodology we require, we generally write down everything. Okay, so think before writing. Okay, and think before doing, or write before doing. Means if you want to perform some research work, then write it down. And before writing down, please think about it, why you are writing this. Otherwise, this will consume your very important, valuable asset, that is your time. So we should not spend time in doing other unwanted activities. So that's why everything should be thought, everything should be written on paper, or it is generally presented in the form of synopsis. So, so while presenting the synopsis, those technical details are not required. Okay, so like when we write a research paper, so we require technical details, because so if some research fellow want to repeat the same experiment in his laboratory, his or her laboratory, then he may read your paper and give reference to your paper. So reference of your paper. The next component, that is result component. So whatever data we have collected, so that is presented in the form of result. That is outcome of your study. So for coming on some conclusion, you required some data, and this data is presented in result. So you have hypothesized that so there is antibiotic resistance in some samples. Okay, sewage samples or other sample. Antibiotic resistance in bacteria from those samples. So this was your hypothesis. And for that hypothesis, you have written some objectives and some aims. And for this, you have designed experimentation. So after designing experimentation, you have selected some methods. Okay. And those methods are the concrete part of your research. So sometimes you have to change your methods. Okay. So you can add or delete some portion, that is unwanted portion, from your work. But before writing your research proposal, you should read some valuable or important research articles related to your research work. So that could be very, very helpful. So every journal has some open access articles, and try to read some articles from Science Direct or Nature like journals. So though we are not able to repeat or reproduce such works in our laboratory, but quality of our work will be automatically improved. So it is a gradual process. So nothing happens within one night or one day. So it takes time. So before writing our research proposal, read at least 10 to 15 papers related to your research problem. So go on Google Scholar. Generally try to read recent papers. Okay. So recent papers are very, very important because they are focusing on current scenario of research problem. So this is the result component. So whatever methods you have done, so the result is presented here graphically. Okay. Or in various charts. So at last, after presenting your result, you come to some conclusion, and discussion and conclusion. Okay, discussion means what you have done, what others have done, how your work is related with their work, and what is the relevance of your work with others' work. Okay, so that is presented in discussion component of research paper as well as research article. Then what are the ethical approvals or consent to participate if the samples are invasive or tissue samples, acknowledgements. Okay, so all those parts are mentioned here. And then important component is references. You should cite other people work. Otherwise, so everyone will ask from where you have got this idea. So every thing should be acknowledged as well as cited in particular research format. So now we have some research proposals by some different agencies. So we will try to go through those proposals. Please wait a minute. So this is the research proposal that is of I think it is DST's research proposal. So we also get fundings from different funding agencies. I think most of the people are aware about this. तो उन्हें पता ही होता है कि मतलब कौन सी फंडिंग एजेंसीज होती है. So this is the simple very sample format of DST. So regarding research project. So first again, so title is very important. That is title of project. Again time. So that is again very important. We have also focused mainly on time aspect. That is duration of the project. Generally, most of the funding agencies provide 3 years of time. Okay, we have to complete our research work within 3 years of time. And this work is divided into years. Okay, so at last we will go through the proposal that I have submitted to SRTM UN Nanded. So actually, I don't have now different proposals that I have submitted. They are in different PC. So that's why I will go through this proposal only. So duration of project. So generally it is 3 years. So main research or thematic area of the project means, so here you will focus on problem. Okay, what is your problem? So why you want to solve this problem? So what kind of technology you are going to develop? Okay, Then field of science and technology covered by proposal. So which fields is biological sciences, physical sciences, or whatever, etc. is mentioned here. Then investigators, that is not important for us now. So technical information. First, we precisely reduce content in abstract. Okay, abstract represent all components. Means it provide the map of your work. So what is the overall map? Though you have not written every detail, but map means, so you are going to Mumbai, means you are going to railway station, then going to Nashik or some else place. Okay, so that is the abstract. So it includes all in precise format, that is introduction, your research problem, that is background of your research, methodology, etc. In brief. Then objectives of the project, what are your objectives? Means how you are going to perform your work. It should be concisely presented in your objective. Okay. Then expected major outcome. So how you are going to solve your problem and what is the outcome of your research work in solving your problem. Though you have presented your problem, so this is the problem आप कह रहे हैं लोगों को कि भाई ये problem है, तो उसके लिए सॉल्व करने के लिए आपको कुछ मेथड सिलेक्ट करनी पड़ेगी और उसमें से क्या एक्सपेक्टेड आउटकम आपको एक्सपेक्ट है. फॉर एग्जांपल अभी इलॉन मस्क ने बताया है कि उनको मंगल पे जाना है, मार्स पे जाना है. सो मार्स पे क्यों जाना है, उसके पीछे की कोई तो भी बैकग्राउंड होना चाहिए कि भाई यहाँ पे अभी बहुत ज्यादा पॉपुलेशन हो चुका है, सो रिसोर्सेस आर यूटिलाइज्ड टू द एंड, ऐसे कुछ तो भी उनके ऑब्जेक्टिव्स होंगे, तो वो मेंशन करेंगे वहां पे. अब मार्स पे जाने के लिए क्या क्या करना पड़ेगा उनको, सो क्या मटेरियल्स मेथड्स उनको सिलेक्ट करनी पड़ेंगी, तो वो सारे यहाँ पे आएंगे. ठीक है, तो आउटकम क्या होगा उनका, सो वी विल बी ऑन मार्स. ठीक है, मार्स पे हम पहुंच चुके होंगे एंड वी विल कॉलोनाइज ऑन द मार्स. तो ये उनका क्या होगा, मेजर आउटकम होना चाहिए. तो अभी वो पायलट लेवल पे हमें दिखाना चाहिए, उन्होंने कोई कॉलोनाइजेशन अगर करना है तो वहां पे एक कॉलोनी वहां पे इस्टेब्लिश होनी चाहिए, एक दो जनरेशन वहां पे मतलब जिंदा रहनी चाहिए, पास होनी चाहिए. सो तभी हम उन पे बिलीव करेंगे. तो हमें भी कोई तो भी साइंटिफिक कम्युनिटी होती है, उनकी आर्गुमेंट्स होती है, उनको कन्विंस करना होता है, तो इसलिए हमें यहाँ पे अपना आउटकम मेंशन करना जरूरी होता है. सो ऑन दिस बेसिस दे विल कन्विंस. तो आपकी भी आरसीसी जो होती है, आरआरसी या आरसीसी जो कुछ भी बोलते हैं, कमिटी जो होती है, वो आपको उनको जस्टिफाई करना पड़ता है कि व्हाट विल बी द आउटकम ऑफ आवर रिसर्च, यानी कि ये स्टिपुलेटेड पीरियड ऑफ टाइम में होने वाला है कि नहीं, ऐसा आपको एक्सप्लेन करना पड़ता है. Then scientific technology or description of the project, that is up to in 500 words. So क्या क्या साइंटिफिक एंड टेक्निकल चीजें यहाँ पे लगेंगे आपको, कौन सी मेथोडोलॉजी आप यूज करेंगे, और प्लान, ईयर वाइज प्लान जो होता है वो बहुत ही ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट होता है. मतलब आपको ऑब्जेक्टिव को जो है डिवाइड करना पड़ता है. ठीक है, शॉर्ट शॉर्ट स्पैन में, जैसे कि फर्स्ट ईयर, सेकंड ईयर, थर्ड ईयर. सो व्हाट काइंड्स ऑफ ऑब्जेक्टिव यू आर गोइंग टू अचीव, व्हाट आर द मेथड्स दैट यू आर गोइंग टू यूज ड्यूरिंग दिस टाइम. ओके, so इस प्रकार से then at last we go for funding. So what is the budget of project, etc. So all those things are covered in research proposals. So I will also try to share another presentation that I have presented. So though it is at a very primary level when I have presented this research work, but this was able to convince the committee. Okay. So committee has, though I was not able to complete this project due to lockdown and some technical issues, but this project was able to convince the committee. So this was the title of my research work that I have presented to SRT. So studies on screening of yeast for banana wine fermentation and scale up of its production process. So that was the title of minor research project that was sanctioned by SRTMU to me. So then introduction, then I have mentioned here origin of research problem. So why this idea came into my mind. So how I am going to solve some problems that are already present here. Then interdisciplinary relevance. What are the different disciplines that could be collaborated here? Then review of research and development. So very brief ideas I have presented here. So your research work should be very precise. So length is not important. Okay, so you should be able to convince the committee, okay, or scientific community. Otherwise, there is no value in our research work. So pages do not count in science. So review of research and development in the subject. In international status, national status, the significance of the study, objectives of my research work. I have divided my work into very small components. Okay, then material methods that I have used. Please, सर मराठी सर किसी का तो भी आवाज आ रहा है डबल डबल से प्लीज आप माइक म्यूट कीजिए तो भी दो लोग एक साथ है यहाँ पे हाँ ओके सो दिस वेर दी steps that I have inserted here. So sample collection, again same procedure, that is sample is required, then preparation of juice, etc. Characterization, parameter optimization, then year-wise plan of work, that is literature review, target that I need to complete second year. So target I need to complete. Then this was the financial assistance that I asked. Though they have sanctioned the 1 lakh only, but that was the amount they only can provide. Okay. तो इस प्रकार से आप अपना जो वर्क है डिवाइड कर सकते हैं और उसको प्रिसाइसली पहले तो आपको नोट डाउन करना है. सो मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल आर अवेयर अबाउट दिस, बट फिर भी हम निग्लिजेंस की वजह से हमारा टाइम बहुत सा खर्च होता जाता है. सो कुछ मतलब हिंट्स देना चाहूंगा मैं आपको कि जब कभी भी आप रिसर्च वर्क कर रहे हैं मतलब आपको क्या करना है. पहले तो यू शुड ट्राई टू स्टार्ट विथ इंट्रोडक्शन. इंट्रोडक्शन आपका राइटिंग होना चाहिए. रिव्यू ऑफ लिटरेचर जो होता है आपका वो राइटिंग में होना चाहिए. ठीक है. आपका एक्सपेरिमेंटल पार्ट तो चलता ही रहता है साथ में. सो साइमल्टेनियसली यू शुड राइट योर थीसिस. ओके, so that will go through various stages of correction, but this will save your time as well as burden. मतलब आप अगर रिसर्च वर्क कर रहे हैं, फुल टाइम रिसर्चर है, तो यू शुड कंप्लीट योर रिसर्च वर्क इन 3 to 3.5 years only. Okay, so not more than this, because this will save your time and you can go for other detailed research work also. So here we can conclude my talk about research work. So my topic is open for discussion as well as questioning. Any question, please? Okay. No questions. Ganesh, hello. Okay. So any doubt? तो तो मेरी भी स्टोरी ऐसी है कि मतलब 3-4 गाइड के थ्रू गया हूँ मैं। मतलब मेरा कोई इंटेंशन नहीं था ऐसे कि इधर जाओ उधर जाओ, बट आई वॉज नॉट क्लियर अबाउट माई रिसर्च वर्क। इस वजह से ये चीजें मुझे फेस करनी पड़ी थी। ओके हाउ ओके सो प्लीज एक्सप्लेन व्हाट आर things to mention in thesis which are different from synopsis. So there is question. We are not aware of the content present in those things. Mention in thesis which is different from synopsis. Okay. So you have to go in detail. जब आप रिसर्च करते हैं ना तो आपको डिटेल में थोड़ा एक्सप्लेन करना पड़ता है। सिनॉप्सिस में एकदम इंट्रोडक्टरी पार्ट ही मेंशन करना पड़ता है, मतलब 6 से 7 पेजेस में आपका सिनॉप्सिस हो जाता है। अगेन पेजेस डू नॉट मैटर, तो वो डिफरेंट रहेगा कि उसकी डेप्थ अलग रहेंगी। देन हाउ टू रिसर्च प्रपोजल वेरीज विद सिनॉप्सिस पार्ट, मतलब सिनॉप्सिस पार्ट से कैसे वेरी होता है। सो एक्चुअली बोथ आर सेम थिंग्स। सो समटाइम synopsis matlab here we are presenting at the university, so it can also be presented as a research proposal, but here we mention some funding as well as other parts when we go for some funding agency. तो मतलब मेरा पहला जो एक्सपीरियंस था अमरावती का था। सो वहाँ पे मतलब मैं एक तांबेकर सर है हमारे और उनके पास गया था, मैं वहाँ पे करना था वर्क। कांबळे सर और तांबेकर सर उनके अंडर काम किया। सो देयर आई वाज नॉट क्लियर अबाउट माय रिसर्च वर्क। तो कुछ तो भी रिसर्च करना है, अच्छा वर्क करना है, तो इस वजह से वहां पे छोड़ दिया मैंने। सो देयर आई वाज वर्किंग ऑन डीएनएस, ओके, दैट इज डीऑक्सीराइबोन्यूक्लियस। एंड फ्रॉम देयर I went to Pune University. So there I work on anaerobic bacteria, that is periodontitis causing bacteria. So I worked there for around 1.5 year, and I have also presented my work to CSIR. I have they also have given sanction on same topic. Then I come back to SRD. So again I submitted my proposal to HGPA University, that is on wine production. So here I was realized that I should have some very easy problem. Easy means I should have some realistic problem, so such that it will not spend my much time. Okay, मतलब मेरा वक्त जो है वो ज्यादा वेस्ट नहीं होना चाहिए, तो ये सेव करना जरूरी होता है हमारा टाइम भी। तो दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। सो प्रिसाइसली आप जब रिसर्च वर्क चालू करेंगे तो साइड बाय साइड आप थीसिस राइटिंग भी चालू कीजिए। अपनी एक टेम्पलेट बनाइए। टेम्पलेट रहती है ऑलरेडी, अपने जो कलीग वगैरह रहेंगे उनसे अपने लैब की टेम्पलेट ले लीजिए कि उसमें क्या क्या कंपोनेंट आपको इंक्लूड करना है। सो दैट विल बी वेरी हेल्पफुल। सो और किसी को कोई प्रॉब्लम है प्लीज? ओके, ठीक है। तो अभी थोड़ी देर में ही हमारे देवसरकर सर ज्वाइन होंगे। नेक्स्ट लेक्चर है आपका, प्रोफेसर देवसरकर सर। Asma Juhi asking question. YouTube channel, yes, है, हमारा YouTube चैनल है. नेम ऑफ YouTube चैनल प्रदीप सातव. ये लिंक है चैनल का. अच्छा, टाइम मतलब वेस्ट कौन सी चीजों पे नहीं करना चाहिए. ओके. तो मैंने वही बोला है कि हमें क्लियर, हमारा प्रॉपर प्रॉब्लम जो होना चाहिए वो क्लियर होना चाहिए. मतलब ज्यादा अनरियलिस्टिक प्रॉब्लम पे हमें काम नहीं करना चाहिए. सो कंसिडर पीएचडी एज ए डिग्री. उसको एक प्रॉब्लम में सॉल्व करने की हमें पहले तो आदत लगानी चाहिए, और एक स्टिपुलेटेड पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. बिकॉज आई हैव पास एमएससी इन 2009 and I have completed my PhD in 2018. Okay, it's okay, but I have spent a lot of time that I should not have spent because I was not clearly aware about all those things. और उस टाइम पे रिसर्च वर्क जो है वो डायरेक्टली मतलब अलग वे से होता था. कोई ऐसे ये नहीं होता था कि मतलब कोर्स वर्क वगैरह नहीं होता था. तो तो इनिशियली आप उस चीज पे फोकस कीजिए. आप राइटिंग साइमल्टेनियसली चालू रखिए. जो इवनिंग का पार्ट होता है, कुछ सिलेक्टेड नंबर ऑफ कोर रिलेटेड जो रिसर्च पेपर्स है उतने ही पढ़ने की कोशिश कीजिए. ठीक है, और कुछ प्रॉब्लम है इससे रिलेटेड? ओके. हाँ बिरादर जी, आपका क्वेश्चन था ये. ओके. नेक्स्ट गेस्ट विल ज्वाइन आई थिंक आफ्टर 5 or 10 minutes. मराठी सर. हॅलो. हा सर, अनम्यूट झाले का तुम्ही?
हा हॅलो. हॅलो.
हा हॅलो सर.
हा सर, आता झालं अनम्यूट.
बरं बरं, ओके सर. मी बुक पाठवले म्हटलं 1-2, तर ते शेअर करून द्याल का सर प्लीज ग्रुपवर?
हो हो, नक्की नक्की शेअर करतो. सो आय एम व्हेरी मच थँकफुल टू डॉक्टर प्रदीप सातव सर for sharing his valuable time and his experience to our research scholars. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity to talk in front of those talented people. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Shall I leave, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Our
thank you, sir.
second guest speaker has joined now. Hello.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, sir. Devsar ka sir? गणेश.
सर एक मिनिट.
हा, देवसर का सर हे कर.
हा सर बघा.
Okay. Sir, Devsarkar sir, please unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So, dear participants, today we have with us Dr. Santosh Devsarkar, Director of School of Chemical Sciences, SRTMU Nanded, as a guest speaker. And he will deliver a guest lecture on the relevant topic of your syllabus. So, Dr. Devsarkar sir is a close friend of mine, and we are associated with each other since 2000. So, it's our 22 or 23 years of friendship. So I know him. He was actually, since his academic career, he is a meritorious student. He is a gold medalist in BSc and MSc. He is qualified NET and SET examination with a higher ranking, and he has completed his PhD degree in 2007 when I have completed my PhD degree. So I think we are both received the PhD degree in same convocation. Again, he has worked as a assistant professor in the government Institute of Science and Humanities, Nagpur, and also he has also worked as an assistant professor at SFS College, Nagpur, a renowned college of Nagpur city. Then he has selected here at SRTMU Nanded as a assistant professor, and now he is promoted as a professor, and now working as a director of School of Chemical Sciences, SRTM University Nanded. Under his guidance, more than 5 students are awarded with PhD degree. Now I request Dr. Santosh Devsarkar sir to deliver his talk. Sir, Devsarkar sir.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Dr. Vishal, sir, thank you very much for nice introduction. And Dr. Vishal, who is a coordinator of this particular coursework for PhD, is my best friend, and we have studied at the same college in the Amravati. So thank you very much for inviting me over here to deliver a talk on research methodology. I request all the participants who are going to give the examination for this particular coursework, and I very well know that after qualifying this exam only, your registrations for the PhD will be done. Right? So this examination is very important for you. The rule has been changed, and now you have to qualify the exam first, and then you will be getting your registration under your guidance. My today's topic is research methods. This is one of the module or chapter in your syllabus and will be asked for 20 marks in your examination. There are 6 modules in this paper in research methods, and this is one of the module or chapter in your syllabus. So without taking much more time, I would start the lecture with qualitative and quantitative method of research. Let me share the screen with you. Can you see this particular screen? Can you see this presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then shall I proceed? Shall I proceed for the lecture? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So friends, the title of the today's talk is qualitative and quantitative method of research. Qualitative and quantitative method of research. The research methods are the tools and techniques for doing the research. Here I have tried to define the research method in very simple and short way. That is, the research methods are tools. They are the tools and techniques used for doing the research. Tools and techniques for doing the research. That is called as a research method. These research methods can be qualitative type or quantitative type, depending upon which type of the data is used in that particular method. For example, if you are using the numerical data, the data in the form of numbers, then that type of research belongs to the quantitative research method. And if you are using the descriptive data or subjective data which is not in the form of numbers, then it is called as the qualitative type of research. Very simple definition. If you are using the numbers for the evaluation of your results, then it is a quantitative. If you are not using the numbers, numerical data, if you are using subjective data, then it is a qualitative methods. Here I have listed some qualitative and quantitative method of research. For example, historical method of research is there. Historical method of research. This is a qualitative type of research. Qualitative type of research. Case study is a qualitative type of research. Ethnography is a qualitative type of research. Ex post facto. Ex post facto is a quantitative type of research. Documentary and content analysis is a quantitative type of research. Survey is a quantitative type of research. And laboratory experimental studies, which are performed in the, particularly in the science subject and maybe in the social science subject, is a quantitative research. So in your syllabus, these methods are there, and they may ask you any one or two methods. The question on any one or two methods: historical method, case study method, ethnography, ex post facto, documentary and content analysis, survey, laboratory experimental studies. These are the different methods of research. Qualitative research aims at understanding. Qualitative research aims at understanding of some phenomenon or the process that is happening around you. So the aim of the qualitative research is understanding of particular phenomenon, and the quantitative research aims at the explanation of that phenomenon through the numerical data in the form of numbers. Whereas both qualitative and quantitative method of research can aim at description of social reality. Friends, we know that when we perform the research, the aim of the research is for the betterment of the humankind or the society. If your research is contributing very small, a little contribution to the societal problem, small problem in the society, then that research is called as useful research. That is useful for the society. So therefore, even you perform qualitative or quantitative research, it is for the social reality, social development, betterment of the society, betterment of the human being. This I have prepared 3 presentations. This presentation, whatever you are seeing, observing now, this is a general presentation in which basic of qualitative and quantitative research we will see, and then in second and third presentation we will see qualitative methods separately, 2-3 methods, and quantitative methods, 2-3 methods in detail. Coming to the quantitative research. Quantitative research. Now, this particular type of research is related with why and how of human behavior. Why, and generally it is about why and how. This type of questions are asked in qualitative type of research. Why and how. For example, historical research, case study research, ethnography, phenomenology, and grounded theory. It involves in-depth understanding. See here, this is important. In-depth understanding of human behavior. Because you have to give the data in the form of quality or in the form of subjective data you have to supply, and you have to analyze that data by different statistical methods. So therefore, it involves the in-depth understanding of human behavior and the reasons that govern the human behavior. It is used when we don't know what to expect. In qualitative research, it is a generic term of investigative methodologies described as, just I told you now, ethnographic research, naturalistic. It is means qualitative research is also called as naturalistic research. Naturalistic research. In qualitative type of research, the person does not modify or manipulate the conditions of the surrounding where he is doing the research. The research is carried out in the natural conditions. No confined conditions are maintained while performing this type of research, qualitative research. Or anthropological research, field work, participant observer research. These are the different names of qualitative type of research. It emphasizes at looking at variables in the natural setting. What it emphasizes? Variables in the natural setting without disturbing the variables, without disturbing, for example, water is falling, waterfall and production of some crop, for example, soybean. So that waterfall is natural. Waterfall is natural, and we are not manipulating or confining the or making fix that particular waterfall. Whatever the natural waterfall is there, that is there, and we are measuring, suppose, production of the soybean at different places, and we compare the data. We compare the data and study the effect of waterfall or temperature or humidity on the production of particular crop. So it is done in the natural setting in which they are found. Interaction between variable is important. Interaction between variable. Two or more variables can be there for particular problem. As I told you, waterfall and temperature, humidity, these are the variables. They can vary. They can vary with time. They can vary geographically. And therefore, interaction between these variables is considered in this reason, in this research. Detailed data is gathered through open-ended questions. The interviewer is an integral part of the investigation. Detailed data is gathered because it is a qualitative type of research and subjective data is collected. Therefore, the data should be in-depth, detailed, and interviewer is the integral part of the investigation. That is according to Jacob 1988. Interviewer means researcher, the research student. The person who is doing the research is an interviewer, is a researcher, and that is an instrument for the qualitative type of research. In quantitative type of research, human being or the researcher or the interviewer is not the instrument, is not the integral part of the research. But in case of qualitative type of research, the interviewer or the researcher is an integral part of the research, and he or she is a instrument for that research, or equipment for that research. This research differs from quantitative research, which attempts to gather the data. This I have already told you. Next, definitions and examples of the different types of qualitative research. Now you have understood what is meant by qualitative research. Qualitative research is that research in which subjective type of data is collected. It is for in-depth understanding of the societal behavior. In qualitative type of research, the interviewer is the integral part of the research. In qualitative type of research, the interviewer or researcher is the instrument for that research, and rich and in-depth data is collected in the qualitative type of research. Now, there are few examples of which definitions we will see. Phenomenology is one of the important qualitative type of research. Phenomenology. A form of qualitative research in which the researcher attempts to understand how one or more individuals experience a phenomenon. So phenomenology means what? There is a particular process or phenomenon in the nature around the researcher, around you, and the person, the researchers, he want to understand, he want to experience that particular phenomenon. For example, criminology. Now that can be one of the topic of research. You can select particular geographical area in which more number of criminals are there and criminology is there according to the government record or police department record. Then one can take this as a problem, his research problem, PhD problem. Because this lecture is general, I will not talk about only science or mixed examples we will see. And you have to also write the mixed examples in your examination. So, media, study about the media. So, individual experiences a phenomenon. Different types of news comes, they can be analyzed in media studies. Broadcasting. These are the examples of phenomenology type of research. In phenomenology, what we do, the researcher attempts to understand how one or more individual experience a phenomenon. In short, we are studying the definitions. Second is the ethnography. Ethnography. It is a form of qualitative research that focus on describing the culture of a group of people. Ethnography means what? Describing the culture of group of people. A culture is related the shared attitudes. What can comes under the culture? Shared attitudes of the people in that society, their values, living values, norms, practices, their language, material things of the group of people. Group of people means particular society you select for your study, and you do the qualitative research, that is ethnography, that is study of their culture. And you can make some hypothesis, and then after study of ethnography, you can make the conclusions and compare your hypothesis with the conclusions. For example, one can go and live in some communities and study the culture and their educational practices. So one can go in some community, some society, particular society, and they can study their cultural behavior, their culture and their educational practices. And then why such type of research is needed to be carried out? Because in some society there may be less literacy, their culture may be different, their culture may be good, and that culture can be, in your conclusion, that culture can be used, or it can be generalized for other societies. Am I audible? Am I audible and am I continue? Shall I continue? Any one of you, please talk. Am I audible and shall I continue? Am I audible? Vishal sir. Okay, okay. So in this type of research, cultural studies, anthropological studies means human development studies are carried out. Then comes the case study research. Case study research. We have studied phenomenology, ethnography. Then third qualitative type of research is case study research. Is a form of qualitative research that focused on providing a detailed account of one or more cases. Detailed account of one or more cases. This type of research can be done in medical science or other sciences. For example, you might study a classroom that was given a new curriculum or technology use. So in educational sciences also, one particular case can be studied. A classroom is given ICT use and what is the effect of these tools on the teaching and learning can be studied. So example of the case. What is meant by case study? So case may be some institute, it may be some industry, or it may be patient case study for particular disease. Fourth qualitative type of research is grounded theory. Grounded theory. It is qualitative approach to generating and developing a theory from data that the researcher collects. So it is an approach for generating and developing a theory. We generate the theory from the data that researcher collects. And then that theory is tested for its success. For example, you might collect data from parents who have pulled out their children out of public school and develop a theory to explain how and why this phenomenon occurs, ultimately developing a theory of the school pull out. Why the pull out of the students from the public school is done by the parents, that you can understand from this type of research grounded theory. For example, social and applied sciences, it can be performed. HIV positive cases, criminals, these are the examples of research areas in which you can study the grounded theory. And another one is the historical research. The name itself indicates historical research means the thing that has been happened already in back in time, that is studied in historical study. Is research about events that occurred in past. The events may be some war, maybe some you can say America has blasted that Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. So like this, the things which are happen, events, you can study. Some war, Second World War, First World War, you can study in historical research. For example, you might study the use of or corporal punishment in schools in 19th century. Like this also, you can study. It is time bounded. In that particular time, whatever the event has happened, that can be studied. Examples are, this type of research can be done in all disciplines: science, social science, literature, library science, or media science. In all disciplines or all four disciplines, this type of research can be done. In education system, you can perform the historical research. How the education system from last 100 years or last 50 years has been developed in India, you can study. You can take that as a particular problem for your research. Then ethnomedical treatment. Ethnobotany, you know, or ethnobotany. It is a branch of botany in which the medicinal plants are studied. Medicinal plants, the plants which are having some medicinal value and which can be used to treat particular type of diseases. Then ethnomedical treatment, this can be studied in historical research. In back time, some people, some of the other people and group of people, they were using, suppose, particular type of it's a medicinal value having plants, then that can be one of the important type of research. Then history and human behavior. These are the examples of historical research. Then coming to the characteristic of qualitative research. They may ask you the question on this. Qualitative research, characteristic of qualitative research. What are the characteristics of qualitative research? Number one, purpose. So what is the purpose? Purpose of qualitative research is understanding only. Purpose is what? Understanding of some phenomenon. So seeks to understand people's interpretation about some phenomenon. What is the reality of qualitative type of research? The reality is dynamic. It is not fixed or constant. It may changes from interviewer to interviewer and the geographical area or the group of people or society that you have selected. So it is not fixed everywhere. It is it may be depend upon geographical area, or even it is depend upon the interviewer, who is the integral part of qualitative research and who is the instrument for that qualitative research. Reality changes with changes in the person's perspective. Person's perspective, the interviewer's perspective is very important. So therefore, the reality is not fixed. Reality is not constant for qualitative research. It is dynamic. It is changing. Viewpoint. Viewpoint is insider. Insider means what people think from their inner voice, their original or natural voice is taken into consideration while performing the qualitative type of research. So viewpoint is insider. Just hello, am I audible now? Any one of you can unmute and say, please answer me. Am I audible? Are you listening the class or not? Okay, in message you are giving yes, am I audible? Okay. Then shall I continue? Yes, okay. So then next is the value. Value of this research is value bound. The research is value bound. There is a consideration of value of a human being. Values will have impact and should be understood. Focus of the qualitative research is holistic. Focus is holistic. That is good thing. And a total or complete picture is sought. Orientation of this research is discovery. Discover and make some theories out of the outcome of the research. Theories and hypotheses are evolved from this data. So orientation is discovery. You should remember this. Purpose, understanding, reality, dynamic, viewpoint, insider, value bound research. Focus is holistic. Orientation is discovery and theory. Okay, this discovery and theory. Data is subjective. This is very important. Whatever the data that you get, that you collect from the society, maybe from the people, that data is subjective. That means it is descriptive. It is not numerical data. These data are perceptions of the people in the environment. Instrumentation. Which instrument is used to carry out the qualitative research? So it is a human being. Human being will be the instrument. Human being means the researcher, the interviewer, the person who is doing the research, that human is an instrument for this research. No separate instrument is required. The data is subjective. It is not objective or numerical data. So therefore, no any equation, mathematical equation like that will be used there, because when we use the mathematical equation, whenever we use some small equation or big equation, mathematical equation to calculate some property, then it requires the numerical data. So when you require numerical data, then you use the mathematical equations. But in qualitative type of research, as the data is subjective, therefore no mathematical equations are involved and instrumentation is human. Conditions are naturalistic. The conditions are naturalistic, as I told you. Whatever the natural conditions are there, in that condition only the research is sought out. Investigations are conducted under natural conditions. And result of this research are valid because the interviewer himself has interacted with the people, human beings in particular society, and he has observed the particular phenomenon. So therefore, the results are valid. Focus is on gain, reach, real, reach, and deep data. What is the result? In result, the focus is to gain real, reach, and deep data. So friends, these are the characteristics of qualitative type of research. Advantages and disadvantages of qualitative type of research. Advantages: produces more in-depth and comprehensive information. That is the advantage, because you get lot of data, in detailed data in the subjective form, and comprehensive information, huge amount of information, comprehensive information you will get in this particular type of research. It uses subjective information and participant observation to describe the context or natural setting of the variables under consideration, as well as interactions of the different variables in context. So two important things are there. This particular type of research is carried out in natural setting. This is advantage of this research. And the interaction between the different variables are studied. Otherwise, in other type of research, the interactions are not studied. So therefore, interaction between two or more variables of that particular research or property are studied. So therefore, this research has this advantage. It seeks a wide understanding of the entire situation. Wide understanding, complete understanding of the entire situation is studied. So therefore, this is also one of the advantages of this research. Now, disadvantages: the very subjectivity of the inquiry leads to difficulties in establishing the reality, reliability, and validity of the approaches and information. What happened in qualitative type of research? Huge amount.
Excuse me, Dr. Devsakar sir. Your slides are not moving.
Slides are not moving.
Yes.
Now they are changing?
No, sir.
Okay.
PowerPoint presentation mode मध्ये करायला हवं. Presentation mode मध्ये सर.
Okay. Sir, presentation mode मध्ये करा sir. Share.
Can you see now?
Advantages and disadvantages. आता change करून पहा एकदा. झाली आता change. Okay.
ठीक आहे.
Okay sir. Thank you sir.
Disadvantages of this research are, as I told you, in this type of research, the data that is collected is very descriptive, subjective, and it is the comprehensive data is there, in-depth data is there. So therefore, huge amount of data is collected, and while doing the analysis of the data by using different statistical scientific methods, it becomes difficult. To handle that much data. So therefore, this is one of the disadvantages of qualitative type of research. It is very difficult to prevent, detect researcher-induced bias. This is one of the important disadvantages of this type of research. Why? Because researcher-induced bias. Suppose if you have selected some problem for your research, then the interviewer or the researcher or the research student, his bias in his mind, it is there, always there. He, before collecting the data from the people or collecting the data for particular phenomenon in the nature, before collecting the data, he or she may make some conclusion in his or her mind. So this bias may be there. Suppose if you are studying about some political person, and one interviewer may think positively about that political leader, and some other interviewer or the researcher may think negatively about that particular political leader. Different type of examples I am telling you, not only from science. So researcher-induced bias, that is always there. So this is the problem. This is disadvantage of qualitative type of research. Whereas in quantitative type of research, the instrument is not the human being. Human being is not the integral part of the research. And whatever the numerical data that you get, on that data only we draw the conclusions. So researcher-induced bias is disadvantage. Its scope is limited due to in-depth compressive data gathering approaches required. So again, it comes. So in-depth and compressive data, because of that, it has got some disadvantages. Qualitative research involves finding out what people think and how they feel about some phenomenon or the process in the nature or around us. This kind of information is subjective, because what and how, it is not how much, what and how about some phenomenon. So it is subjective and it is not objective. It is descriptive. Okay. It is comprehensive, in-depth and detailed data. Subjective data is collected. It involves feelings and impressions rather than numbers. It involves, as I told you, it considers, it is an insider view of this particular type of research. Qualitative research is insider, inner voice of the people is considered for that particular research concerning some phenomenon. So therefore, rather than numbers, feelings and impressions are involved rather than numbers in this type of research. Popularity of qualitative research. Popularity. Why it has become popular? Usually much cheaper than quantitative research, because no any special conditions or equipments or instruments are needed for this type of research. The interviewer itself is an instrument of that research, an integral part of the research. So therefore, it is usually cheaper than quantitative type of research. No better way than qualitative research to understand in-depth motivation and feelings of the consumers, peoples. So this is very important type of research in which you will get in-depth and compressive information, understanding, thinking of the people or the consumers, people with which you are interacting. Qualitative research can improve efficiency and effectiveness of quantitative research. Because of this research is more popular. This is the popularity of qualitative research. Qualitative research can improve efficiency and effectiveness of quantitative research. There are some limitations of this qualitative research, like this is one example is given. Marketing success and failure are based on small differences in marketing mix. They are depend upon small differences in marketing mix. So therefore, qualitative research does not distinguish these differences, because it studies that particular phenomenon in broadly. It does not it is not representative of population that is of the interest to the researcher. So it considers some particular area, geographical area, or particular population of human being. So therefore, this does not consider the population of interest of researcher. The multitude of individuals who, without formal training, profess to be expert in this field. So these are the limitations of qualitative research. So what we have studied, I am going back. Qualitative research: phenomenology, ethnography, case study, grounded theory, historical research, characteristics of this qualitative research. Okay. Then advantages and disadvantages of this research and how it is important, popularity and limitations of qualitative research. Coming to the second important type of research, that is quantitative type of research. Quantitative type of research. If you remember, in qualitative type of research, we ask two questions: why and how. Why and how. But in quantitative type of research, the questions are what, where, and when. Whereas in qualitative type of research, the questions are why and how. So here it is what, where, and when of the natural phenomenon. It is a systematic empirical investigation. Empirical investigation. Empirical means numerical. Empirical means numerical, number. Data is in the form of numbers. So empirical means there will be some equation, mathematical equation, through which we can calculate some data, some property, and you will get the value, numerical value, mathematically for this particular property. Systematic and empirical investigation of quantitative properties and phenomenon and their relationship. So this quantitative research can be experimental or non-experimental. There are two types of quantitative research: experimental and non-experimental. The aim of quantitative type of research method is to predetermine the hypothesis and produce generalizable results using statistical methods. Predetermined hypothesis means we select some research problem. And before doing the research, we make some hypothesis, 3, 4, 5 hypotheses. We make some hypothesis and then produce generalizable results using statistical method. From that hypothesis, we make generalizable results from that Shall I continue, sir? Vishal, sir? Vishal, sir? Shall I continue? So this can be experimental or non-experimental type of research. Am I audible, sir? The qualitative method is based on the idea that social phenomenon can be quantified. Any one of you can unmute and please interact with me whether I am audible or not. Otherwise, I will go talking. Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. So the social phenomenon can be quantified. It is based on that. Social phenomenon can be quantified and it can be measured. Now, anything which can be measured, anything which can be measured, anything which can be measured, it can be expressed in numbers. Anything which can be measured. Okay. For example, length we can measure. Length we can measure, so therefore it can be expressed numerically. 1 meter, 10 meter, like that. For example, volume of water, 100 ml of water. So anything which can be measured, that can be expressed quantitatively. Number of books in the library, it can be measured. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10,000 books are there in the library. So it is the basis of quantitative type of research. The information about social phenomenon is expressed in numerical term. So information is about social phenomenon is expressed in numerical term that can be analyzed by statistical method. So statistical methods are standard methods. SPSS software is also available, and your Microsoft Excel you can use, and there are number of ways for doing the statistical analysis of the data that we observed. So that numbers can be tabulated, and their graphical form or their different types of analysis, statistical analysis can be performed. The information about social phenomenon is expressed in numeric form. Okay. The observations can be directly numeric information. So what are the observations? In qualitative type of research, observations are subjective or descriptive. But here, when you perform the research, the objective that we get, the data that we get is the observations can be directly numerical information, or can be classified in numerical variables. They can be classified in numerical variables. Observations are transformed into data matrix, in which each observation unit individual occupies one row, and each variable one row. So like this table, we prepare a table. There are rows like this, horizontal, and columns, vertical. So in that the data matrix, in which each observation unit, whatever the variables are there, example individual, occupies one row, and each variable occupies one column. So we can plot the graph of that, or we can compare in the tabular form between these two variables. Now observation unit means what? Observation unit. What are the examples of observation unit? Individual group can be observation unit, like family, household, couple. Some institution like IIT or some college or university or some other institution can be the observation unit, where we observed some phenomenon and write some hypothesis and made some conclusion about some problem. Organization or community, like school or municipality. It can be a text. Observation unit can be a text, like newspaper article, a novel or research. Event or activity. It may be some event or activity like war, strike, or revolution. These are the self-explanatory words. So therefore, I will not go into the more description of these words. So these are the observation unit. Now, what are the variables in qualitative type of research? The variables are observable and measurable characteristic of an observation unit, which varies across different units. So these different observation units are there, and there are some observable. You can observe and measure. Measure, you can measure in number. So observable and measurable characteristic, whatever the observable and measurable characteristics of observation unit are there, that unit, how that observable and measurable characteristic, how they changes from one unit to another unit that we study. For example, teacher sound, temperature, humidity, rain following, water flow, gender ratio, heartbeat, etc., etc. So have you got this? This teacher sound or temperature in particular area, okay, humidity, rain falling, water flow, gender ratio, heartbeat. Like this type of problems we can study as a variables in a particular observation unit. For example, if you are considering school, okay, or college as an observation unit, and if you are studying the gender ratio, male-female ratio. Recently, we have celebrated on 8th March International Women's Day. Okay. Now, if your problem is based on school or college as an observation unit and gender ratio, okay, male-female ratio that you have to study, that is a variable, then observable and measurable, you can observe and measure the characteristic of that particular school and this particular institute or college, and we can make some conclusion which are useful for the society. Strengths of the quantitative type of research are: it enables the research and description of social structures and processes that are not directly observable. There are some structures, phenomena, processes in the nature around us which are not directly observable, So that we can measure by using the qualitative type of research that we can measure. It enables the research and description of social structures and processes that occurs in the nature that are not directly observable. That is a strength of this particular type of research. It is well suited for quantitative description, comparisons between groups and areas. Description of change, that is very important. The change in the phenomenon or the society about particular problem or issue that can be described by using quantitative type of research. Analysis and explanation of causal dependencies between social phenomenon. Dependencies between social phenomenon, they can be analyzed and explained. Analysis and explanation of causal dependencies between the social and social phenomenon. These are the strengths of quantitative type of research. What are the weaknesses of this research? The weakness of quantitative type of research is it simplifies and compresses. It simplifies and compresses the it simplifies and compresses the complex reality. So whatever the complex reality is there in structure and processes or phenomenon in the society or around us in the nature, this particular type of research, through its objective data, that is numerical data, it simplifies or oversimplifies and compresses the complex reality, abstract and constrain the perspective. Only applicable for measurable, quantifiable phenomenon. This is well known. You know that quantitative type of research is only applicable for those things which are measurable, which can be measurable, means quantitative things, which can be measured in numbers. So it is only applicable for measurable or quantifiable phenomenon, those things which cannot be measured. For example, emotions. You can say emotion of the people about particular thing. Something or the phenomenon has happened in some city or some country, suppose. Then people emotion cannot be measured by some scale in 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. So this research is not applicable for that. We require the data in numerical form. That is, that property must be measurable. That property must be measurable. It presumes relatively extensive knowledge on the subjective matter in order to be able to ask correct questions. So it is based on the asking correct questions, and the solution or answer of that question is in the form of numbers. It is difficult to study processes or dynamic phenomenon. It is difficult to study processes or dynamic phenomenon. Produce static view of the reality. Static view, fixed view of the reality. Like it is not dynamic view. View of the qualitative research is dynamic. Qualitative research is dynamic. But this type of research is static. It is not changing. Description of actor's perspective of the actor, the person, intentions, their intentions, meanings is difficult. Description of actor's perspective, intention, meanings difficult. As I already told you, because these are not measurable property. Actor's perspection means perspection of some person about some phenomenon cannot be measured. Intention of some person about something cannot be measured, and therefore meanings of something, it is a qualitative type of it. It cannot be measured. So therefore, these are the weaknesses of qualitative type of research. Here I have given some comparative statements regarding qualitative and quantitative type of research. What we have already studied, but we will fastly go through it. You can read this. I will share this presentation with you. Characteristic of qualitative and quantitative research. This is qualitative research, number one, and this is quantitative research. Focus of research is on the quality. Focus of research is on quantity. Philosophical roots, phenomenology, symbolic interaction. Positivism, logical empiricism. Empirical things are performed here. Associated phrases means qualitative research is also called as fieldwork, ethnographic research, naturalistic research, grounded theory, or subjective research. Quantitative research is also called as experimental research, empirical research, or statistical research because numbers are there. Goal of the investigation of qualitative research is understanding, description, discovery, hypothesis gathering. Whereas for quantitative research, it is prediction, control, description, confirmation of something, confirmation of hypothesis testing, whatever the hypothesis we have made earlier, and whatever the result, what result we get, the comparison of hypothesis and the result. Design characteristics are flexible here. You can have it you have chance to make it flexible, characteristic, evolving and emergent. But here in quantitative type of research, the design characteristic for the research are predetermined and structured. Setting, it is natural setting. This qualitative type of research is performed in natural setting and familiar, whereas quantitative type of research is performed in non-natural and artificial settings and is unfamiliar and artificial. Sample in qualitative research is small, non-random and theoretical. It is non-random. This is very important. It is not random. If it is random, then it can give the complete information of whatever the researcher want. But the sample is non-random. A particular sample is selected. It is theoretical type of research. Whereas quantitative type of research, the sample taken is very large. Therefore, there is a good chance of getting correct results. It is random. It is taken from random places. So the properties or the behavior of particular phenomenon will be correctly reported in your results because the sample is random. And it is representative of all the sample. Data collection. The data collection in qualitative type of research is researcher as a primary instrument. You know that. Researcher himself or herself is a primary instrument. Interviews and observations. These are the ways through which the data is collected in qualitative type of research. In qualitative type of research, the data is collected through interview of people and observations. Whereas in quantitative type of research, the data collection is inanimate instruments, scales, because you have to measure something. You have to measure and report it in numerical form. Scales, tests, survey, questionnaires, computers, etc. Mode of analysis is inductive. Mode of analysis is inductive, that is by researcher. And mode of analysis here is deductive, that is by statistical method. Here in quantitative type of research, researcher does not analyze the data, but some statistical method of research, scientific statistical research method is used to analyze the data. But in case of qualitative research, it is inductive research. So therefore, this type of research, in this type of research, researcher himself analyze the data. Here, the statistical methods are used for doing the analysis of data. Findings of the qualitative type of research are comprehensive. They are comprehensive, they are holistic and expansive. Whereas the findings of quantitative type of research are precise, narrow, and reductionist. Precise, narrow, and reductionist. All research ultimately has qualitative grounding. All research has all research ultimately has a qualitative grounding. This is a saying of Campbell in 1974. First, address why and how, that is qualitative. Then what, where, and when, that is quantitative. First, address why and how, that is qualitative. Then what, where, and when, that is quantitative, can be more meaningfully asked and answered. So therefore, both the type of research are important, qualitative as well as quantitative. So one can perform separately the qualitative method of research by choosing some or the other method of research in qualitative research. One can perform separate quantitative type of research by selecting one or the other quantitative method of research, or one can perform both qualitative as well as quantitative, mixed qualitative as well as quantitative type of research. All research ultimately has a qualitative grounding. First, address why and how, then what, where, and when can be more meaningfully asked and answered. Here some differences between qualitative and quantitative research are given. This we have already discussed. These are some features of qualitative and quantitative research. You can read this. That has already come in our discussion. Now finally, the key difference, we can say the main difference between the qualitative and quantitative method of research is flexibility. Flexibility. We know that generally the quantitative methods are fairly inflexible, means quantitative research are not flexible. They are not flexible. They are confined, and they are in the actual particular state they are performed. But you know that, as we have discussed, the qualitative type of research are done in natural setting, and flexibility is there. The researcher has opportunity to for the flexibility of the open-ended questions that are asked to the persons. Qualitative research are typically more flexible. That is, they allow gather spontaneity and adaptation of interaction between the researcher and the study participant. So qualitative research is flexible, quantitative research is inflexible or little flexible, fairly flexible, less flexible. Qualitative research is flexible, non-qualitative research is not flexible. For example, qualitative method asks mostly open-ended questions. As I told you, open-ended questions. So flexibility is there, that are not necessarily worded in exact the same way with each participant. So you can change the words of that open-ended question with each participant to whom you are asking the question. But like this is not possible in case of quantitative method of research. With open-ended questions, participants are free to respond in their own words. As the questions are open-ended questions, so therefore participant can give their response in their own words. In addition to this, with qualitative methods, the relationship between the researcher and the participant is often less formal than the quantitative research. We already talked about this. Participants have the opportunity to respond more elaborately in qualitative type of research and in greater detail than is typically the case with quantitative method. In turn, researchers have the opportunity to respond immediately to what participants say by tailoring subsequent questions to information the participant has provided. So here you can unmute, and here I have completed the first general part, first part of qualitative and quantitative method of research, in which we have studied the definition of qualitative and quantitative type of research, and we have also studied the different types of qualitative and quantitative type of research, their characteristic, their advantages and disadvantages, their popularity, differences between them, and some important characteristics of qualitative and quantitative type of research. Now, if you have any question, then this particular session, first part, is open for discussion. If you have any question, without hesitation, you can ask me. Vishal sir. Vishal sir. Any one of you? Am I audible to you? All of you are muted by sir or what? Okay, I am audible to you. If you have any question, you can ask me related to this. Sir is not there? Okay, things are clear, sir. Okay, from Nikhil Biradar. So what, shall I proceed? It is 1 o'clock now. Shall I proceed for the next presentation? Yes, please. Okay. Can you see this presentation? Yes, okay, I will proceed. Now we will come into the details of qualitative method of research. Details of qualitative methods of research. The first method that we are studying here is historical method. The historical method. If you remember, in my first presentation, I have given you brief idea about different types of qualitative type of research as well as quantitative type of research. Now we will see details of 3-4 important qualitative and quantitative type of research. The first method that we have chosen is historical research, and this is one of the important qualitative type of research. This is qualitative research based on describing the past, history or historical. The name itself indicates this is research. It is a qualitative research based on describing the past. Whatever the things or the phenomenon or the event that has been happened in the past are studied in this type of research. And this type of research literally can be done in all the faculties, maybe science and technology, or social science, or interdisciplinary, library science, media science. In all the subjects, in all the faculties, or four faculties, the historical research can be performed. Studying, understanding, and interpreting the past. What is the aim of historical research? Study, understanding, and interpreting the past. Reach insight or conclusions about past persons or occurrence. Past persons, for example, our national heroes, those who have contributed for the development of this country, our freedom fighters. So you can choose that past persons, and occurrences also. Occurrences means war or some event that has been happened in the past that can be studied. And here you will get purely the subjective and descriptive data, not the objective or numerical data. And data, as I told you in my first lecture, data in the form of numbers, numerical data you will get, and the property which is not measurable, we study that property in this type of research. So reach insights or conclusions about the past persons or occurrences is done in this type of research. The historical method comprises techniques and guidelines by which historians use primary sources and other evidence to research. Now, because in historical research, you are studying the persons or the occurrences in the past. So therefore, you have to collect the documents that is called as the primary data. Primary and secondary data is there. So you have to collect that data in the descriptive form. It offers insight into organizational culture, current trends, and future possibilities of particular phenomenon. This method applies to all fields of such study, as I already told you, because it covers their origin, growth, theories, personalities, crises. So this is therefore applicable to all fields of study. It is employed by researchers who are interested in reporting events and or conditions that occurred in the past. So it is employed by researchers who are interested in, those who have interest in reporting the events and or conditions that occurred in past. There are some steps, standard steps, which have to be followed while performing the historical research. And these steps, one of the scientists, Charles Busha and Stephen Harter, two scientists, Charles Busha and Stephen Harter, detail 6 steps for conducting the historical research are given. So we will see these 6 steps. So there are 6 steps in. Sorry for interruption. There are 6 steps. Am I audible, sir? Am I audible, sir? Okay, thank you. So Charles Boucher and Stephen Harter detailed 6 steps for conducting historical research. आता here, these are very important steps. On historical research, they may ask you the question. Then what are the steps involved in the historical research that we should know? Number 1, and these are very simple. Number 1, recognition of historical problem. Whatever the problem that you are selecting, so you have to recognize that problem, or need of the certain historical knowledge. Means why we need that particular historical knowledge, that you have to recognize, that you have to identify. Otherwise, we will not do any type of historical research, any event or a person. Why there is a need of doing Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Am I audible now? Okay. So there was a internet issue on my laptop. So how to continue this lecture? Shall I continue on the mobile? But slides will not be seen. Meanwhile, I will try to reconnect the laptop, but there is some Wi-Fi problem in our department. No, it is saying connection is private, is not private. Okay. So shall I continue like this? With the help of phone also. How? Okay. With the help of phone also I can share. Okay. So I have to take into that phone first. Right. So I will try. Just give me 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. I will try to do that. But
सर तुम्ही कंटिन्यू करा म्हणे 2 पर्यंत. मोबाईल कंटिन्यू करा सर.
मोबाईल चालेल का?
मराठी सरांना थोडी अडचण आहे काहीतरी. त्यांचं कनेक्ट होत नाही, म्हणजे त्यांनी रेंज नाही वाटायला त्यांना बहुतेक. हो तुम्ही कंटिन्यू करा सर 2 पर्यंत.
मोबाईलवरून करू ना?
हो करा सर करा. हो. आणि
मग प्रेझेंटेशन
राहू द्या सर, नंतर मग बघता येईल. हे नाही तर प्रेझेंटेशन पीपीटी शेअर करू सर विद्यार्थ्यांना.
हो शेअर करू. हो 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 हो. आता कसं पीपीटी मोबाईल मध्ये घ्यायची म्हणलं त्याला वेळ लागते, 5 मिनिटं लागतात.
नाही तुम्ही कंटिन्यू करा सर 2 पर्यंत.
हा ठीक आहे ठीक. हो हो हो. So we were studying the qualitative method of research and historical research as a first method for the qualitative research, and we were studying the different steps involved in the historical research. The first step we have already discussed: recognition of a historical problem or need of certain historical knowledge. Need of certain historical knowledge. Then second step is gathering the relevant data of that particular problem. Gathering the data. If you have pen and notebook, you can write small notes, small points. First step is recognition of the historical problem. Second step is gathering relevant data regarding that problem. Third step of the historical research is, if appropriate, forming hypothesis. If appropriate regarding that particular event, then forming the hypothesis of that problem. So we make 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 hypotheses regarding the problem. Then fourth one is a rigorous collection and organization of events. Rigorous collection. We are studying the historical method of research. Regarding that, the organization of evidence, whatever we have collected in detail, they are organized, and verification of the authenticity and veracity of the information and its source. Verify. Then we verify whether that source is authentic or not, that we verify. The fifth step is the selection, organization, and analysis of past
pertinent collected evidence and drawing the conclusion. And the last step is recording of conclusion in meaningful and narrative description. So that is a recording of conclusion in meaningful or narrative description. Then in the field of library science, library and information science, there are vast array of topics. There are a number of topics which can be considered for conducting the historical research. And as I told you, in all the type of subjects, in all the faculties, historical type of research can be performed. The historical research depends on broad variety of sources, and that sources are, you can write down primary sources and secondary sources. For performing the historical research, which is qualitative type of research, there are two types of sources. Sources we have to collect, and from that source we have to get the data, descriptive data, authentic data, relevant data. And there are two types of sources, that is secondary sources, primary sources and secondary sources, including unpublished material. Even unpublished material you can consider as a primary and secondary data. Now, what are the primary sources? Primary sources of information are first-hand accounts of the information. First-hand accounts of the information. For example, your original documents regarding that particular process or phenomenon or event or the person you are doing the study. Primary sources are the first-hand accounts of the documents or information. Direct overcomes of the events. Direct overcome, some event has happened, then direct overcome of that event is the primary source of data for historical research. Or records of eyewitnesses. Records of eyewitnesses means those people who have observed that particular phenomenon directly, they have seen, they are witness of that particular phenomenon. So that is a record of eyewitnesses. This is a primary data. This is a primary data for historical research, which is qualitative type of research. For example, original documents, relics, remains, artifacts, personal diaries of the person, eyewitness accounts of the events, and oral histories. These are the different examples of primary sources or primary data in historical research. Secondary sources of information in historical research are records of accounts prepared by someone other than the person or persons who are participated in or observed an event. Means the person who are involved or observed, who are victims, or we have seen that particular phenomenon. They have not written something, or they are not telling something, but some other person has written a book or written some paper or given you the information about the particular event. Then that is a secondary source of information. Secondary source of information. So it is record or accounts prepared by someone other than the person or the persons who participated in or observed an event, other than that person who is not involved or that person is not there. Some other person, like authors write a book on some good people, some national heroes. So they write the book, that is a secondary data. Okay. And if you are getting the original documents of that particular national hero, then that is a primary data of information. So in this way, this is very important. Primary sources of information and secondary sources of information. For example, textbook, encyclopedias, newspaper, periodicals, review of research, and other references. These are the examples of secondary sources of information. There is one criticism on the historical method of research, and that criticism is, it asks external criticism, It asks if the evidence under consideration is authentic. Means whether that evidence is authentic or not. The researcher check the genuineness or validity of the source. It is what it appears. It is what it appears or claims to be. It is admissible as evidence. Means whatever the primary source of information and secondary source of information that is provided is authentic or not, that we have to see. The researcher or the research student has to see that authenticity of the primary and secondary sources of information. When was the source written or unwritten produced date? Means whatever the source, primary or secondary, that we are considering, we have to ask some questions. When was the source written or unwritten or produced date? Where was it produced? That is localization of that particular primary or secondary source of information. By whom it was produced? Koni produced kela. By whom it was produced? Authorship. So that we can believe whether this author is good or not good. In this way, you can authenticate the primary and secondary sources of information. From what pre-existing material was it produced? Analysis. In what original form it was it produced? That is integrity. And what is the evidential value of its content? What is the evidential value of its content? So these are the questions that we have to ask when we collect the primary and secondary information, sources of information. Now coming to the purpose of historical research. Purpose. What is the purpose of historical research? To reconstruct the past. To reconstruct the past. Then to discover unknown events. Unknown events. The events that were not known to us, but that has happened in the past, in the history, that we can know, we can discover this type of events. Then understand the significance of events. What is the significance of events? From that event, what we can learn. If it is a good event, then we can generalize it and we can use for different societies in the world. Or if it is a bad event, then we can learn something from that event. So understanding the significance of event. Then to discover the context of an organization, movement, or the situation. Context. What is the context of particular organization, movement, or situation regarding that particular happening in the past? Then to find answers to the questions about past. Answers to the questions about past. To study cause and effect relationship. That is very important purpose of historical method of research. To study the cause and effect of the relationship. Then to study relationship between past and present. Relationship between past and present. Suppose if you are studying some event that has occurred in the past, that event you can compare, the similar type of events you can compare with in present. So we will get some good conclusions about after comparison of the event that has been happened in past and the current event. The study relationship between the past and present situation condition. Record and evaluate the accomplishment of individual, institution, and other kind of organization. That is also purpose of the historical research, to record and evaluate accomplishment of the individuals or institutions and other kind of organization. Another purpose is to provide understanding of immediate phenomenon of concern. Immediate phenomenon of concern. So whatever the phenomenon that has happened, the immediate consequence or immediate phenomenon concern is done. To understand the cultural context of the libraries. this particular sentence is regarding the library and information science. Next, so these are the purpose of historical research. Next is the characteristics of historical research. Number one, generally historical research is qualitative. It is qualitative in nature. Characteristic, it is qualitative in nature. That means descriptive data or subjective data is there, objective data is not there. Second one is study and analysis of data of the past event. That is very simple. Study and analysis of data of the past events. Third characteristic of historical research is researcher's personal judgment is important. The personal judgment of researcher is important because here interviewer or the researcher is itself is an instrument and is an integral part of the research in qualitative type of research. Historical method of research, you know, it is a qualitative type of research. So therefore, researcher personal judgment is important in the historical research. This is one of the important characteristic of historical research. Then study depend on available data. Characteristic is, so this can be a limitation also. So characteristics of this particular type of research is the study depend upon available data. Studies depend upon available data, because whatever the data you have available, that only you can produce. Time and place dimension. It has time and place dimension. When we perform the historical research, then particular time you have to select. For example, 1950 to 2000. In these 50 years, whatever the historical study you have to do, you can do. So time and place, geographical place. Suppose Nanded district you have to consider, or Nagpur district, particular jurisdiction, particular place, particular geographical area for particular time you have to consider while doing the historical research. That is a characteristic of this historical research. Then interpret meaningful events in the past. Whatever the event that has been happened in the past, they have to be interpreted. They have to be interpreted. Interpret meaningful events in the past. And the last characteristic of this particular historical method is study of process of change and development. Study of process of change and development. Advantages of historical research. We have studied purpose of historical research, then characteristics of historical research, and now advantages of historical research. What are the advantages of historical research? Number one, it helps to explain the current and future in connection with the experiences of the past. Whatever the experiences regarding particular thing or the event that we got, we can compare with the present condition. So that is one of the advantages of historical method of research. Researcher can rationally and objectively analyze the events of the past. So researcher can rationally and objectively analyze the events of the past. The researcher is not physically involved in the situation under study. Why? Because it has already been happened. So researcher was not there at that time. So researcher is not physically involved in the situation under study. No danger of experimental bias. So no danger of experimental view or bias is there. This is advantage of historical method of research. And the last, researcher does not interact with the study or the subject study. The researcher does not involve with researcher study. This is advantage because we are doing historical research and the event or the phenomenon has already happened, or if you are considering some biography of person, then it has already happened and we are doing the research on him. So therefore, researcher does not interact with the subject study. These are the advantages of historical research. Then coming to the disadvantages of historical research. Disadvantages of historical research. Lack of control over variables. Lack of control over variables means you cannot control the variables. You cannot control the variables because That is not in your hand. You are doing historical research. The things have already happened. Whatever the things are there, that you have to do the research on that only. So lack of control over variables. Then lack of control over variables. Representation of entire sample cannot be ensured. It cannot be ensured that total or entire sample will be considered. Bias in the interpreting sources. When primary sources of information and secondary sources of information, when we have collected, and while interpreting these sources, a bias may be there. The interviewer or the researcher, particularly the researcher bias, may be there in interpreting the sources. One researcher can interpret in different way, another researcher can interpret in different way. Like our GR are there, different government GR are there, different documents are there. Some can interpret in different way, some other researcher can interpret in different way. This is a disadvantage of historical method of research. Another disadvantage of historical method of research, which is qualitative research method, is sources may be problematic. The sources may be problematic. Primary and secondary sources of information may be problematic. Then another one is interpreting sources is time consuming, because you have collected different type of textbook, handwritten scripts, diaries, events, different experiences of people about that particular event or phenomenon. So therefore it requires a lot of time for interpreting. Interpreting sources is time consuming. And then last one is content analysis is limited. Content analysis limitations are there in historical method of research. So we have studied the purpose of historical research. What is historical research? We have studied. Okay. Then 6 steps involved in the doing historical research. Then primary sources of information and secondary sources of information. Criticism on historical research. Criticism on historical research. Purpose of historical research. Characteristic of historical research. Advantages of historical research. Disadvantages of historical research. Now lastly, the limitations of historical research. Limitations of historical research. Number one, numerous factors which make it complex and broad are need to be considered and analyzed. There are a number of factors. When we collected primary and secondary sources of information, there are a number of factors that have to be considered while performing this historical research. This is one of the limitation of this research. Then historical data is not complete. It's not complete and it is vulnerable. Documents may destroy with time or war. For example, if you consider some war, then whatever the document related to that war may be destroyed by some person. So this is a limitation. You will not get the complete data. Data is subject to external and internal criticism, because whatever the primary, secondary sources information you have collected, it comes under criticism. Somewhere someone may accept it as it is, someone may criticize that data. So that is the limitation of historical method of research. No any scope to control and manipulate any variable, because in historical research we study the things that has happened in the past. So therefore there is no control of the interviewer or the researcher over the variables. So no any scope to control and manipulate the variables. Then researcher cannot affect the event of past. This is the next limitation. Researcher cannot affect the event of the past. We cannot affect, we cannot change that event that has been happened. So this is limitation. Researcher cannot affect the event of past. The next limitation is data collection is not possible by using tool. By using some tool, you cannot collect the data. And the 7th limitation is research depend on secondary data. The research depend on secondary data. These are the limitations of historical method of research. Here we have completed historical method of research. Then second method is case study method. Then after that, there is ethnography. 2 methods are there. So I think time is almost over. We cannot complete these 2 methods today. And then quantitative method of research, 2 to 3 quantitative method of research we have to study. So we require special, again, 2 hours lecture to complete our qualitative and quantitative type of research. Am I right? Oh, anyone can unmute and we will talk. आता दुसऱ्या आपल्याला क्वालिटेटिव्ह मध्ये आपण हिस्टॉरिकल मेथड घेतलेली आहे. अजून 2 मेथड त्याच्यामध्ये आहेत आणि क्वांटिटेटिव्ह मधल्या 3 मेथड, असं ते मिळून आपल्याला अजून एक लेक्चर घ्यावं लागणार आहे. ते तुमच्या सरांना बोलून नंतर तुम्ही कधी ठेवायचे ते ठरवून घ्या. आणि त्याच्यानंतर एक रिसर्च पेपर रायटिंग, इम्पॅक्ट फॅक्टर, स्कोपस आणि हाऊ टू पब्लिश द वर्क, त्याच्यावर एक लेक्चर घ्यायचं आहे मला. ते टाइम ठरवा तुम्ही. जवळपास 2 वाजत आले आहेत. विशाल सर इज देअर?
Sir,
Yes.
We are very thankful to you, sir, for such an excellent lecture on behalf of Research Center and Research Scholar, NES Science College, Nanded. Thank you so much, sir. Sir is now not present here, so that's why. अगर आपका लेक्चर खत्म हो गया हो तो हम मीटिंग एंड कर सकते हैं, सर.
Yes, but if there is any question, you can
Yes.
ask.
Okay.
Or if there is no question, then you can end the meeting. Is there any question? Okay. Shall I leave, madam?
Yes, sir.